So there are so many different trading strategies out there that people use or try and use or are learning or trying to apply to their own trading. But how do you know which strategy is right for you? And how do you know when you should no longer use a strategy, which is a completely viable question that a lot of newer traders face. They start getting into a strategy, they realize, they like some things about it, maybe they don't like other things about it. And what do? Do they just bail on it? Do they just quit on it? A lot of times, for those of you guys who are actually really trying to be profitable and really taking the time to do the work, it can be very painful to try and let go of a strategy that you've worked very hard on. So in today's video, I'm going to talk a little bit about strategies. I'm going to talk about this concept of picking up new strategies, dropping them off, how to know if it's right for you, and more. So stay tuned. Let's get into it. Hey traders, welcome back to my channel. If you don't already know me, my name is Nick, and I talk all about Forex trading, stock trading, and just investing in general. So if you like that sort of stuff, or this sounds helpful to you, then make sure to subscribe to my channel down below and give this video a thumbs up if it does help you. It does let me know and the YouTube algorithm know that this sort of content is something that you want to see more of, and maybe other people will as well. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be talking about strategies, which is a very, very fun, but also kind of frustrating topic for a lot of new traders. So you've come into the Forex market, whether you've gone on articles online or you've watched videos like mine or others that talk about different concepts, it can be kind of tricky to decide which strategy you should actually use. So first I'm going to talk about picking a strategy, and then I'm going to talk about whether or not you should actually keep that strategy. So the first thing is, when you want to pick a strategy, there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can go around on YouTube, you can go around on the internet and look for other people who have shared ideas and try applying them and try testing them in your own demo accounts or back testing on historical data, which is heavily recommended in my opinion. And then you can decide if you like it or not from that. Now, there's a million different strategies. There's people who use indicators, there's people who use fundamental analysis, technical analysis, data analysis, there's hedgers, there's people who are trend followers, people who are reversal traders. There's so many strategies out there that as a new trader, it can be very confusing and very tough to pick the right one. So how do you do it? Well, the best way, in my opinion, is there is no shortcut. You're gonna have to take concepts that you see online and go test them for yourself. Even someone like me with a YouTube channel that is fairly large in the Forex space, I would highly recommend that you don't just take something that I say as fact. I would say, take what I say, go apply it and see for yourself how it works, what works for you, what doesn't work for you, because each trader sees the market differently, reacts differently, has different emotions, has different biases. Everybody comes from a different place. And so it's important that you take the concepts that we talk about on this channel and actually go test them and see if they work for you before trying to just say, well, this person said it's going to work, so I'm just going to use it, right? You have to find something that's comfortable for you. And so that kind of brings me to the concept of picking strategies effectively. You want to pick something that you know is comfortable to you. If you really, really just like trading with the trend, there are people out there who trade trends successfully. So maybe you look into those concepts and you find out what you like about them. Is it because you like the strong risk to reward that trend following can give you? Is it that a lot of times the market tends to keep going in that direction, so it can be a little bit easier to get into the entry point? There's different things that different strategies have. For example, a reversal trader might like the idea that most of the time when the market gets stretched, it does reverse. Most of the time it does have some pullback, and you can profit on it on a high win rate frequency. Some people like high win rates. Some people like very large risk to rewards, right? It comes down to preference. And I know people in different types of trading that are all successful. So the last thing I would encourage you not to do is don't go around bashing people who don't think the exact same way when it comes to trading, because you may trade very differently than somebody else, and somebody else may be successful just like you are, hopefully, at some point, and bashing each other is no use. It's kind of like bygones be bygones. Let other profitable traders do their thing and you do yours. But again, it's going to take time to find and discover what you find most comfortable for you to trade in your own trading account. For me personally, I found my first profitable strategy using reversals. And whether it was because I was a noob trader or not, it was definitely easier for me with a higher win ratio. right? So my risk to reward was not necessarily great, but I started finding a strategy that would give me some pretty decent win rate, meaning I think my first strategy had like a 65, 70% win rate. So most of the time I was winning, and I used that strategy to some degree today. And so that to me was what I needed mentally in order to find some sort of consistency. And I feel like a lot of traders who are beginners definitely need that. As I've developed as a trader, I've also developed some strategies that work for me that have a higher reward to risk, meaning I'm going for 3 to 1s, 2 to 1s, whatever. And it means that I'm gonna have a less win rate, but it's okay because I've tested, applied a concept that I know in the end has a pretty good historical back test and most likely will continue to do okay into the future. So it's about finding your feet, it's about finding your confidence as a trader and discovering strategies and concepts that work best for you. To do that, you need to put in the time, you need to put in the effort. Go back test and apply these concepts in a demo account, test them out for yourself. Again, not just from my channel, but from everybody, every content outlet that you see on the internet. You should not take anything for granted. Go test everything out that you see on the internet, because that's gonna do you the biggest favor in the end, is learning for yourself what works. If you see somebody who talks about a doji candlestick pattern strategy where you just do this, this, and this, well, that's great on paper, but go test it out, because on some pairs it might work really well. In the stock market, it might really work well, but on other things might not work so great. So back testing is huge and something that I am personally a very, very big advocate of. It's kind of like if you were going to go test out a new car, right? You probably wouldn't want to buy that car without trying it out or seeing demos or seeing something of it performing before actually putting down your hard-earned cash, right? Well, when it comes to trading, it's very similar. You're putting down real money that you've probably worked hard for. If you're like me, I've worked hard for the money that I'm going to be putting on my trading account. So I don't want to just, put money out there willy-nilly. I want to actually make sure that it tests out well and that it looks pretty good, and that has a high probability of actually being a profitable system. Right? This is a business, and if you can't treat it like a business, then you're going to struggle to be profitable. That's the reality. So I think the next part that we wanted to talk about on this video is definitely going to be when to drop a strategy, because it's easy to pick up a strategy and try it, but how do you know when it's not good for you? So I've had strategies that have been pretty good for me on paper, but then comfort-wise, they just weren't. They just had a really low win percentage, or the risk to reward was just too much to wait for, and I just mentally was not comfortable trading that. Whether that's just being a newer trader and not being able to handle some of the emotions, I understand that. But for me, when I was a newer trader, it was important to find something that was very comfortable for me first. I can talk about other strategies once I get comfortable on the current one that I'm looking at, okay? But with that said, removing a strategy from your portfolio or from your approach is a very sensitive thing, because a lot of you guys, myself included, when I've had to remove strategies in the past that didn't work, it was painful. It's like, man, I spent all this time learning this strategy. I spent all this time spotting the pairs and setups that I wanted to trade, back testing and putting all in this work just to drop off the strategy. So it can be a painful thing, and I understand that, especially if you're like me and this stuff is like a huge hobby and turned into my lifestyle. But it can be a kind of a mentally painful thing to have to remove a strategy that you no longer should trade. But how do you know? Well, if your back test comes out bad, if you mentally just don't like trading that strategy. Again, I've had strategies in the past that test out pretty good on paper, but mentally I just don't like trading them. They just don't feel right. I can't spot the trades as easily. They just don't feel right to me. And I feel that most people can relate to that to some degree or another. So you have to be able to remove those concepts that they don't feel right, they don't trade right, the back test just doesn't look as good, right? And you have to be honest with yourself. Back test everything that you do, of course, and if the back test doesn't come out good, then it's probably not the best strategy for you. Now, of course, when I say back test, I want to encourage, at least when I do my back testing, I go for 500 to 1,000 trades on a back test before calling it a potential strategy. So a lot of times people will take like 5 trades on a historical back test, and they'll be like, oh, this thing works great. You have to go extensive, you have to go deep with that. So that is what I would recommend with that. But you have to know your numbers, and you also have to know your mental, psychological side of trading as well. So those are some things to think about, but if those don't check off, those are strategies that sadly might have to go. At least for me, that was a very important lesson, is to wipe off a strategy that was not either performing well as it did in the back test, or it just mentally was not something that I liked trading. And that's just finding out yourself as a trader. That's why this stuff doesn't happen in a month. It doesn't happen in 2 weeks. It takes time to become a profitable trader and to learn yourself, just like I learned myself when it comes to trading. Now, self-esteem and confidence in trading is huge, and it's very, very, very important in running any sort of business, as trading is, to actually have confidence in your ability to execute properly, which trading is a big, big part of that. So just my 2 cents on that. So guys, let me know what you think down below in the comments. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up if it was helpful to you, and we'll see you back next video.